Hey, everybody. Welcome back to our CEO panel on the final day of the Women's Outdoor Summit. I want to first ask the people in the larger audience to announce themselves in the chat. Share with people your pronouns, your ancestral lands, and we're just encouraging you to interact with one another throughout this session. Before we get started, I also wanted to give a huge shout out to Janine over at the Range. I appreciate all that she has done in supporting me here, not only here today, but over the past several years. So thank you, Janine. I also want to welcome these amazing troublemaking panelists, all of them. And also our sponsors, Backcountry, which is our title sponsor, our supporting sponsors, Arc'teryx, Outdoor Research, Merrill, Patagonia, and Smart Wool. I also want you all to know that all proceeds from this gathering will go to the Karn Project. And I also want to thank the amazing people behind the scenes, Noelle, the amazing team over at Ravel, and also Julie and her awesome team at Jam Collective. I am going to stumble. I am going to make mistakes. I am going to use profanity. I am going to have fun above all. So I encourage all of you to give me space to make missteps as I offer the same to everyone else here and beyond. I want to start by acknowledging the land in which I am on today, which is the Ohlone land here in the Bay Area, Northern California. And I would ask that you all do the same as we get into this. So let me start with some community guidelines. We strive for this virtual gathering to be a safer, more inclusive space. This summit centers the experiences of cis and trans women, as well as people who have experienced gender discrimination in their outdoor professional and personal lives. We welcome all people who are comfortable in a space that centers the experience of women. While this event is called the Women's Outdoor Summit, our attendees may not all be women. We require our community to use the pronouns that are shared by speakers and attendees. We encourage all to practice gender-neutral language and avoid generalizations about the bodies and experiences of the community. We encourage respectful interaction and community engagement. If something resonates or you have a question, comments will be viewable by facilitators and addressed in real time. When sharing our perspectives, we agree to be curious and ask questions before making judgments, and to communicate in ways that allow everyone to feel seen, valued, and heard. We will maintain civil dialogue between speakers and listeners, contributing via comments. We will not tolerate any form of harassment, including racism, ableism, homophobia, transphobia, ageism, sexism, body shaming, etc. And harmful comments will be removed. We encourage you to do what you need to do in order to be present with us today. This may look like turning off other distractions, preparing yourself with a snack, taking breaks between sessions, or whatever helps you get the most out of this experience. We are here to learn and to connect with one another, reflect on how our experiences align or differ, and to celebrate joy together. I am also excited to welcome our amazing ASL interps, Jessica, who I've been working with the past week. It feels like every dang day. And the other interps as well, who are doing amazing jobs helping us out here today. I would like to, at this time, introduce the panelists, or ask the panelists to introduce themselves. And remember that we don't have like a whole lot of time here today, but I would love for you to introduce yourselves. If you feel free using your pronouns, go for it. Announce the organization you're with, the company you're with, and hopefully we can do this as quickly as possible so that we can get to some of these hard-hitting ass questions, because I am ready to get into it. So if you want to start, Sierra, we'll take it from there.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. My name is Sierra Domel. I run Hi Hey Hello magazine. It's a magazine that celebrates women in the outdoors, outdoor creative culture. What else was I supposed to do in the introduction? Anyways, it's a total honor to be here, and I'm really looking forward to learning more and meeting everyone.
Cool. Troublemaker Allison.
Good morning, everyone. Allison Desir, founder of Harlem Run and co-chair of the Running Industry Diversity Coalition. Pronouns she, her. I am newly on Duwamish land. I moved from New York to Seattle, and I'm a mother to Corey, who will be joining us undoubtedly at some point.
Cool. Over to you, Carla.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carla Amador. I am the co-founder of the 52 Hike Challenge. We get people outdoors once a week for a year in order to change their lives. And I'm actually joining from Colombia, an area called Poblado. And I'm currently being a digital nomad. So I'm looking forward to exploring this indigenous area and culture. And I've been learning so much. I just came here from Mexico and really got to connect with a lot of natives in Oaxaca. So I am Latina. I'm very proud to be here with everyone and to show up for my community and women of color. So thank you for having me, Teresa.
Dun, 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 dun. Agnes.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Teresa, and to the entire team. My name is Agnes Vianzon. I am the founder and executive director of the Eastern Sierra Conservation Corps. I am a settler coming to you from the east side of the Sierras, the lands of the Numu people and Payahunadu, the land of flowing water. And that's me. My pronouns are she, they. Thank you.
Cool. Diana.
Thanks, Teresa. Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Diana Sung, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And I am with Jack Wolskin. I'm the general manager of North America, and I'm streaming in from Park City, Utah. And I'm happy to be here with this amazing crew.
Next up, Natalia.
It's Natalie.
I'm sorry, did I pronounce your name right?
It's okay. It's all good. Natalie.
Oh my gosh. Hold on, let me reintroduce you.
All right.
Next up, it's the amazing kick-ass Natalie. Go for it.
Hello, everyone. It's morning here, and my name is Natalie. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am calling in today from the Ute and Pueblo lands. I am the co-founder of River to River, which is an instructional business that teaches whitewater stand-up paddleboarding and river surfing all around the world. And I'm recently the host of a new podcast called Eddie Out, which takes conversations of our fellow river rats, puts them onto the platform, and helps connect our community all around the world. And I'm really happy to be here.
Thanks, Natalie. Next up, Jalen.
I'm loving all of your sing-songing, man. This is fantastic. Rate, Shie, Jalen, Yenaba, Goff, Yenishne. Good morning, Yate Bena. My name is Jalen, and I am the founder and executive director for an awesome organization called Native Women's Wilderness. And we work in getting Native women, our girls and our two spirits, outside and elevating their voices, along with talking about issues of stolen land and murdered and missing Indigenous women. And I am honored to be here and to be with so many amazing people on this panel.
Thanks, Jalen. Next up, my friend, Michelle.
Hi, Teresa. Hi, everybody. My name is Michelle Wardian. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I recently ran outdoor research for 5 years and stepped onto the board of directors there and work for the parent company in Seoul, Korea. I'm president of Young Women North America and chief strategy officer. And this has been an amazing couple of days. Thank you for hosting this. It's truly, truly life-changing. Thanks.
Thank you all for being here. And I'm going to jump right into the questions for all of you. But I just wanted to say, people have asked, why I came up with this event. And, back in 2017, I had a lot of women reach out to me to ask for help. They were concerned with matters of sexual harassment within their workplace, and the National Park Service itself was dealing with matters of sexual harassment. So when the fire chief at Yosemite went before Congress to testify on sexual harassment in the National Park Service, it was at that time that I said to myself, just because I don't know what to do doesn't mean I get to do nothing. Because I didn't have answers to these concerns that they were bringing to me. So I thought, I am going to bring a bunch of women together who are smarter than me, who have these answers. And as a collective, we can come up with some answers to help those who are struggling in the outdoor industry. So that's the purpose behind the Women's Outdoor Summit. So getting to the questions, and I don't have this, I'm not going to direct them to any one individual. If you feel it in your soul to speak up, speak up. And if you don't, I will call on you and say, hey, what are your thoughts? So let's get started. What has been the most challenging for you in your current role? Again, anyone can speak up.
I can start. I'll kick it off for the group. So the most challenging in my current role has been trying to launch a brand, because most folks probably have never heard of Jack Wolfskin, but it's a German outdoor brand that's been around for 40 years. And I was commissioned to launch it in North America. And unbeknownst to me, I would be launching it in the middle of a pandemic. And so that came with its own slew of challenges. But more challenging than that was probably having to build a new team and infrastructure and build culture. And so I think all the women on this group have this amazing ability and role to build culture within their organizations. And that was probably the toughest, having to do that remotely with a totally new team that I couldn't even interact with in person, and to build process and camaraderie and trust and all of that. So that has definitely been a big learning, but probably the biggest satisfaction for me as well, a year later with the team that I have.
I'll chime in. I totally agree with that. And that was what I was going to come in with. As I've been growing 52 Hike Challenge, I'm now having to learn to delegate. And that's something that I think, when we have a baby, we have this vision, and then as we're growing, we need to let go. We need to let that baby run, and to actually empower our team to step in and to help us. And so one of the things that I'm having to do these days is learning to delegate, learning to let go of all the little minuscule tasks, so that I can actually take the company to the next level. And then, always thinking bigger for ourselves. I think that, especially growing up as a Latina, I wasn't taught to think bigger than where I am. So now I always say things like, I'd like to do this and more, and to really think outside the box. I think having a co-founder that, thinks outside the box also helps me to realize that sometimes I limit myself. So definitely it's a growing and learning experience to grow a team. And so I completely relate to that last comment as well.
I think for me, so I'm the co-chair of the Running Industry Diversity Coalition. Teresa is our advisor, and shout out to Martha who's watching. So I think for the coalition, it's a really exciting opportunity because we're building this coalition that includes the entire running industry, everybody from runners themselves to retailers to brands to New York Road Runners to race organizations. And we've gotten a lot of really positive feedback and folks are really excited to do the work. What's been difficult for me is how do we do this work in a way that pushes up against white supremacy culture, right? So how do we resist letting this be fueled by a sense of urgency that overlooks other people's ideas? Or how do we make sure that we're doing it in a way that's truly collaborative and folks really feel like they can help co-create this process, right? So when you're building a coalition that's meant to resist white supremacy, but white supremacy culture is still pushing up against you and trying to work against that and create new culture, I feel like that's been really difficult. And making sure that in our desire to do things quickly, we're not overlooking people's voices and not feeding into the same systems that got us here.
I can go next. Carla, what you said really kind of resonated with me of just the idea of the delegation, right? Like that's kind of hard for me because like NWW is my baby and I raised it, and I have a hard time in asking for help. I really, really struggle in asking for help. So I think that's one of my biggest struggles. But I think lately, and I think many of the women of color on this board will really kind of resonate with this, is my own self-doubt of like what the outdoor industry shows us and says to us of where we belong and where we don't belong. And so for me, it's like really wrestling with my own self-doubt and imposter syndrome, right? Like, am I doing enough? I don't feel like I'm doing enough. Someone over there is doing this and I'm not doing that. And then like the combination of not asking for help, it's just like, I just feel like it's just this pivotal fall. And the next thing you know, I'm like, well, shit, I'm going to hang out over here with my whiskey, right? Like, and it's just like trying to like motivate yourself and generate positivity for who you view yourself of. And I think that's something I am personally really struggling with right now. And then of course, COVID, like where do I take NWW? How do I manage this new barrier, or, maybe not even the barrier, but how do I manage this new opportunity, right?
I can go next. This is Sierra. I think this panel is really interesting because so many women on here are founders of their own thing. And I totally relate, Jalen, to what you were saying. Like, I really struggle with just being my own bottleneck. It's like when you are part of a really small foundation or a small team, things just don't, if you're not doing it, it doesn't get done. And so how do you, for me, the challenge is, growing a team and being able to delegate and just getting out of my own way, because often I'm the bottleneck for anything to get done. And I struggle with that. And then also just the pandemic, not being able to connect with people in person. I launched the magazine in January last year and had all these dreams of like all these in-person events, which so many of you rely on in-person events, and all this great energy of like women coming together. And then, moving that to a virtual platform has just been different, as we all know.
I'm going to share a little different perspective of 5 years ago when I went to OR, coming into an outdoor company. And I really listening to Crystal when she was talking yesterday about belonging and safety. It reminded me of being an outsider in some ways coming into the outdoor industry where the language is different. And I remember they were using terms I didn't know, like my stoke is so high and a lot of climbing terms. And I was embarrassed and I was quiet because I didn't know what they meant. And it felt like I needed to move myself towards that more to be included. And one of the things that I did was I went out and I bought a pair of climbing shoes and a harness. And I don't really climb, but I kept them in my car and I started to climb a little bit to be included, because there was such a pressure in the outdoor industry to come along on that journey. And lots of people were really generous in helping me with learning how to do that, but it's not my passion. Running is my passion, and getting outside and gardening and all the things we talked about yesterday are my passion. So I want people to know out there that the language and the things that are happening, we need to be more expansive and change that language so that we all feel, and this conference has really opened that up. But I just wanted to share, you know, no matter what level you're at, when you come into a company, there is going to be something that eats away at your confidence. And for me, that was it, just the language.
Cool. I'm going to move on to the next question. I'm going to try and get in as many questions as I can. Agnes, did you want to say something? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure. Just because also feel like it's a little bit different perspective. I am also a founder, but it's from a nonprofit perspective, and so similar and different. You know, I don't have a business background, but I still went and started this organization, and we're not selling gear or a specific product, but what ESC is trying to do is increase access and representation through these inclusive opportunities and outdoor experiences. And so my worry is I still have to raise funds. I have to go after contracts with public lands agencies and write grants, and I've never written one before. And we have a lot of expenses because the way in which we want to provide these opportunities is outfitting our participants and members with all this expensive gear. And so ESCC, to be able to provide the skills and training, what we need and what the struggle is more resources and more support from companies that that literally profit from the trails that we're building, and getting folks out there who will continue to buy their stuff. But we need to start and get them out there first. Thanks.
Cool. So the next question I want to throw out there is, what advice do you have for women and people of color who are pursuing C-suite careers, women and communities of color who have historically been underrepresented in the outdoor industry? What advice do you have for them if they are indeed pursuing C-suite, founders, EDs, GM positions? What advice do you have for them? Natalie, go for it.
Thank you. Well, I was thinking about this one, and like I struggle with two things. One, imposter syndrome, where I feel like, who am I to be a voice or a leader in my industry? And also the FOMO of like everyone's doing it better. And so I continue to jump on all these other ships that aren't really me. And so then I think the advice I would give is just continue to be you, continue to follow your passions, dominate in your space. And I heard this the other day with like, the more niche you get, like the more you can focus, like the greater your world opens up and the more opportunities come your way. And I've really been focusing on this year, and I've noticed a lot more opportunity. So it's simple, but powerful.
Thanks.
I'll chime in. I really love this question. I think that the first thing is following your passion, exactly like what I just heard, and but actually stepping in. I think what I'm hearing is that we need to start building our own self-confidence, which has been integral to where I am today. Without that self-confidence, I had to develop that though. I came from a place of not loving myself, not thinking I was good enough. I developed that skill on my personal 52 hikes, being on the trails, I realized I had everything within myself to be that light, to be that example, and then taking the step forward. No one gave it to me. I came from pretty much nothing. And so stepping in and just taking that step forward. And, you know, if you want to get into a role where you're a CEO, you have to start somewhere. You know, we don't get anywhere without action. And that's something that I would love to instill today in the women hearing this, is taking the action, even if you don't know how you're going to get there. If you have vision, like, focus on that vision. See yourself exactly where you want to be every single day and work tirelessly to get there. Lead the way, because we need more women out there. We need more examples. And I'm here today because I've taken this step, and I've been able to have mentors in my life. And so find people who are going to support you, ask questions, and learn from them.
Yeah, I want to echo that. I would say really, like, build your team. I think that speaking to what Michelle said, that in so many ways, when you're as a woman of color, when you're in a founder position or CEO position, there's no one around like you, right? And so you have feelings of imposter syndrome. You have this feeling that you have to give up your authentic self to conform to whatever the culture is in the place. But for me, having a team of other like-minded women of color and women who are like-minded but will still challenge me is such an important piece of moving in these spaces, because they affirm my thoughts and feelings. They challenge me when I'm limiting myself. They remind me that I belong in these spaces. And also, you know, part of being in this role is helping uplift other people, helping looking at the resources you have and compiling them. And you can only do that when you have a team around you. So, you know, I'm where I am because of all of the mentors and other folks who have supported me and continue to support me. So I think as you think about getting into the C-suite or founder position, who are you bringing with you? Who's going to be beside you on the journey?
Teresa, this was one of my favorite questions. I've been waiting for this because I want to be really specific with people. So, and I've had a lot of coaching, a lot of mentors. The last panel talked about your own board of advisors, so I won't go over that. But I've gotten some really strong advice to define what your superpower is. Today, after this, go home and write down, these are the 4 things that I'm really good at, and practice that so that you run into anybody in this industry, you say, I'm a global strategy expert, I'm a supply chain expert, I'm an organizational design expert, I'm a customer-centric leader. You have that down and be able to be ready to say it and build your confidence about why. And so that's super important, that you're ready to explain to people. The other thing is attend seminars that fill your gaps. I've always been super insecure that most CEOs who are women come from finance. I come from communications. I do not have a finance degree. So I've taken classes that are in finance, and they might be 3 days or 5 days, something that you feel rounds you out and gives you confidence. I'll never be a CFO, but at least I can read a balance sheet now. So do these things. And really, the other important thing I've learned in the last 5 years is that no leader operates by themselves. They have 6 or 7 people on their team who do things really well. And as you build that organization, you've got to have them around. And then it's fine to say, I don't know, and reach out to someone else. So those would be my checkpoints.
Thanks, Michelle.
I love that, Michelle. Just echoing what some of the other women on this panel have been saying, you know, don't self-doubt. I think a lot of women tend to do that. They doubt their capabilities and how much they can actually do in a role. And they are far more capable and you know, and so like have the intellect and the innovation skills to be successful in their roles. The second thing I would say is leverage your network. You know, no executive that gets into a role knows how to do their job 100%. And those who are the most successful leverage their network, leverage their teams. What Michelle was, you know, the point she was making of leverage, you know, outside tools and education. to do their jobs better. So don't undervalue the network at hand, whether it's a friend or another colleague, because for me personally, those have been the most valuable and learning how to do my job better. Because again, no executive ever knows how to do their job 100%. So don't forget that.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, Diana, I think being at that point where you feel comfortable in making mistakes, because we're not all perfect, and I can't tell you how many mistakes I've made, but I've also had to really learn through that, because I again, all of the self-doubt and all of that stuff comes behind the mistake of like, oh, see, yeah, you can't do this, or and really trying to change the narrative of that, of like, we all make mistakes and we got to pick ourselves up and we got to keep going forward. And there's something in that we're going to learn from. And I think that's kind of really helped me get through NWW and get through the various communities I work through. I also say, trust your gut. Like, I'm a huge person of where I know when something's good and solid and you go for it. But I know if I even have that feeling of like, ooh, this doesn't feel good, I need to kind of sit with that and marinate in it and figure out what doesn't feel good of this situation and why, and then go forward with my actions of what I'm going to do and what not. Also keep fighting. You're going to have people who are going to try to bring you down all the time, right? They're going to try to bring down your organization. They're going to try to bring down your name. Jealousy is a pretty evil thing, and just keep fighting. Like, it's hard, it's rough out there, but you got this. And we have a saying for the Native communities of like, your ancestors are with you. Like, they're going to give you the strength and power that you need to get here. You are here because of them. And they're going to give you all that you need to keep moving forward. And just, if you are just really struggling, go to the land and water and gain what you need to get from that, right? Because they're right there with you. And yeah, I think all of this has really kind of helped me in my moments of crisis.
I'll piggyback on that a little bit. I was going to say something similar, but as Teresa opened up and kind of asked for grace to make mistakes, like, that really resonated. I think as women, like, we really need to show ourselves a little bit of grace. I think often we're really hard on ourselves. And I think, trying and failing is so much more palatable than having regret. So just take that first step and get into action. And yes, sometimes you trip and you have to like brush the gravel out of your palms, but at least you're moving forward. And I think that's sometimes we just forget that we're human and we need to address ourselves with a little bit of grace.
Thanks, Sierra.
I do have one little thing to say as well. I do think it's really important to surround yourself with diverse voices. And I think that means like everything, like both like, people of color and like, but just diversity across all categories. Like, I found for myself having people of like different ages around and just different backgrounds is really helpful, because everyone just brings such a different perspective and really views the world in a different light. So I think, like, for me, that's been one of the most gratifying things of running the publication, is just hearing so many different stories from so many different women.
Cool.
Hey, Teresa, did you see that Stephanie Wright posted, would love to know what each CEO thinks their superpower is? I think that would be really cool to everyone just take a second to do so. I'll start. I think connection is my superpower. Listening from one person saying, hey, I need this, and I'm like, oh, well, this person has that, and connecting them and then feeling really good about it.
I'll go. Following my intuition. I absolutely have to say that, listening to that inner voice and has never led me astray. So I think we all have it.
I would say for me, it's empowering my team to show up and do what they do best at work. And that has never failed me when I allow my team to just feel like their voice is valued and their opinions are valued, and they always come to the table with exceptional work as a result.
I would say that mine is community building, creating spaces where people feel like they can show up as their authentic self.
Yo, Agnes.
Hi. Yeah, I would say mine is taking all this like chaos and blendering out and organizing it.
Cool. One thing that Jalen mentioned is the respect that we have to give to our ancestors. And one thing that I've always felt and I've always expressed outwardly is that I live in debt to those who came before me and in obligation to those who will come after. And everything I do is geared around that understanding that I don't walk this journey alone, and that those who will come after me will look back and point and say, what the hell did you do? And that's how I live my life, with that understanding that it's not about me. And I think if we cleared that assumption that everything we do is about us, that we could accomplish so much more. But that's how, gatherings such as this comes together for me, is with that understanding that, in 50 years, people are going to look back at all of us and be like, this person helped clear the path for me. This person inspired me. So I hope that, those in the audience listening and everyone else understands that that power is within us, and that no matter how much we do or how much we don't do, people will look back on this moment and say, this is what inspired me. This is who inspired me. So the next question I have is, we do so much every day, a lot of it behind the scenes, people don't even see. But what's most enjoyable for you? What do you look forward to every day other than waking up and playing with Corey for Allison? What else, what's most enjoyable for you? What do you look forward to daily?
Well, I'll start because you mentioned my son. So, I think I'm really I love talking ideas with people. And I think that's something that's so exciting when people bring me ideas and we can talk through the vision and the implementation of it. I love that. I think it's so exciting that I'm in a position where I can not only implement my own stuff, but other people come to me with these great ideas, wondering if it's possible, wondering how it gets done, and being able to, and it's not like I have all the answers, right? A lot of time I'm like, wow, that seems really impossible, but let's break it down. But it's so cool and exciting to share and encourage somebody else's excitement. And that's something that Teresa has done for me, that so many folks have done for me. So that's a really big bright spot in my day. Sometimes I even go into conversations like, oh, what does this person want? But it's so engaging to see that excitement and feed off of it. And then, months, years, see it come to fruition.
I totally agree, Allison. That is one of my favorite things I love. And I think maybe that's my superpower, is creating, if I see a problem, how do I create different avenues to fix it or to give to the situation. And I love talking about that stuff. I like problem solving, and I like being in communication and communion with people and figuring out something new to snaggle up, or hanging on the outskirts with Teresa and talking yeah, we're gonna do this, we're gonna go do that, and then and see the fruition of it all kind of coming through and coming together, because then I know that this is for the greater good, right? We're helping these communities in situations of what they need, right? And I feel like that feeds my soul right there, is knowing that we're making someone's or somebody's life better, or, you know, more attainable.
Teresa, I'll jump in. Something that you said, having worked for a Korean company for 25 years, a non-American company, something you said really hit me. You know, they think 100 years, 2 years out, like, how will I be remembered? What do I leave behind? And the founder of the company that I work for, he has all the family books from decades, you know, these leather books that have been passed along. And I think that the American culture is very much focused on, you know, me, and we're drivers and we're out there. And it's very, but in the Far East, in Asia, they're very focused on listening and relationships. It's the opposite side of the quadrant that Americans think in. And so when COVID happened, for example, you know, as a company, one of the conversations we had at OR was, how will we be remembered with the smaller retailers, and how will this be on the other side of this? And so one of the things that I really enjoy now at this point in my career is, how can I help someone else come through, and whatever building block they need, how can I share that? And this conference is one of those things. That's one of the reasons why I was so excited to see it. And you are, you know, the whole idea of having a women's conference is not new, but to have the word outdoor women's conference is new. So this is the best part of my day, just being included in something like this and talking with people where they might think about how to compound this at a more rapid rate.
I'll jump in. The highlight of for me is definitely connecting with all of the writers and women who submit their stories, because often they're coming from really vulnerable places. People are sharing like their real, true, authentic self and putting out there the story that they want to tell. And often that's, you know, that's really intimate. And so I feel so privileged to be able to share those stories and to read them. And yeah, but it's just, it's so joyful, and honestly, it's just so cool to see how many women out there, especially like younger generations, are just coming up with just cool stories and just doing so many amazing things, both like on their own, for their communities. It's pretty inspiring. So that definitely brings me joy.
I'll jump in next, and I feel like I'm going to sound a little selfish, but what I look forward to are those down moments for myself. Teresa, like you were mentioning, I think a lot of us operate at, 50 miles per hour all day long. And so when I can find those pockets of time, whether to get a workout in or take the dogs for a walk or just sit and, I don't know, play a game on my phone or something, just to, detach myself from work, detach myself from all the stresses in life. Like, I look forward to that, and I need to do it more. But that's definitely something every day I try to intentionally make time for.
I'll go. I think these moments when I can show up and actually speak up and inspire others to step into their own greatness. I just actually finished a conference with Tony Robbins, and something changed my perspective in that conference, which was, when we aren't following our path, we're actually doing a disservice to others, because other people need your voice, other people need your products, and other people need to hear what you have to say. So for me, every single day that I get to show up and create is an opportunity to help someone else, and I'm actually serving my purpose. So being here today, this is my the highlight, right? Showing up and being that inspiration for others. Thank you.
Cool. Agnes?
Yep, thanks. Yeah, so I really relate to a lot of that. And for me specifically, like, I get to witness a lot of firsts. So like the first ever hike, the first ever backpacking trip, the first like trail step that someone builds with their hands out of stone. And also witness like that first may lead them to a career in the National Park Service, or leading a trail crew, or never doing that again. but it's still a first that someone gets an experience in. And with ESCC, I mean, that's the thing is we set out to do something different, and as a conservation corps, we are, and our impact is in changing the faces and directly making a difference in who works and leads in these conservation corps and I'm going to say, quote, public lands agencies. And for me, being part of that and seeing that transition or whatever it is that they go on to do is the best part of my job.
I would echo Agnes as well. I get a lot of people who've never been on the river, and they do a lesson or a certification or a course with us, and there's some sort of childhood trauma that they carried into adulthood, that, you know, the water's just this scary place, and I get to witness them changing their relationship to it. And once you see that, their eyes open up to, you know, their own local spots or their own local rivers or waterways, and then they become stewards of the river. And that just like makes my heart sing, knowing that I can be part of that change, not only with that person, but for the outdoors in our environment.
Awesome. After this question, I'm going to open it up to the questions from the larger audience. But for me, one of the most challenging aspects of this work, the outdoor industry as a whole, is how male dominant it is. I remember going to the Outdoor Retailer Show for the first time, and I literally had people who do this DEI work come up to me in tears. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to be. It was shocking as hell to me to walk into a 3-level convention center and see wall-to-wall men, white men. That is the most shocking aspect of the outdoor industry to me. So what can the outdoor industry as a whole do to support women in an industry that's so male dominant?
You know, one thing that I'm seeing is companies are now tying bonuses to DEI initiatives. And, you know, I'm in the running industry, and I just saw that Nike was the first in the running industry, but Chipotle has done it, and a few other companies. And I think it's really important that DEI is budgeted and is prioritized and is throughout the entirety of the company. So I think this is something that, you know, white men in power, okay, put your money where your mouth is, make these DEI initiatives, tie that to your salaries and to your bonuses, and you should be judged upon how well you make your company and then the culture that comes from it, an inclusive space. So I want to put that challenge out to every single company. Nike was the first in running. There are a few other companies, McDonald's. This is something that I want to see companies adopting.
Yeah, I agree. I think they have to, I think just make it a priority. Like if you're interested in hiring more women, hiring especially more women of color, make it a priority and like follow through with that. Like I've seen, it does seem like now I've seen a lot more brands that are supporting like women filmmakers and women photographers and telling different types of stories. And I would just keep the pressure on like marketing managers and just to keep diversifying like where the funds are going, like seek out who are the amazing like women of color, like photographers, filmmakers, and support their projects. Don't make them fit into your box, but like help them and empower them to tell their own stories and give them the actual support they need, like funding.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Sierra. I've been really fortunate to work with Hoka One, who has given me that opportunity to come in as a DNF photographer and go into, you know, the field with Hoka shoes and put them on Native women and, you know, take pictures of them in their current, you know, areas, communities, and then give the opportunity to tell their story, the story that isn't really heard in the outdoor industry of Native women, and the life that they lead, and the what they're combating, right? And I think that's really, really important. And I think with Native communities, we are a matriarch society for the most of us. And so for like the Diné, the Navajo tribe, we're matriarchs. So the women lead. And I think that just wouldn't have, like, how awesome would that be if like we were the leaders, right? Like we would do so much. But just honoring these voices and giving the communities who don't have a voice really out there right now, how to take a step back and say, I've shared this time and now it's your turn, right? And I think that's really important.
Teresa, I'll say I look at my mentors over the years, and most of them were white men. And there was a moment in meeting many of them where I'm like, why are they helping me? And I realized later on the character of their personality and where they were in their career, they saw that the outdoor industry was too white. And so what I've started to do is I'm recommending women that I know to that network of men that are kind of senior in their career. They're looking to help people get on boards. They're looking to know great women. And last week I met a woman who's not in the outdoor industry. She actually worked for Microsoft for 15 years. And I connected her into my network in the outdoor because here's a woman who's done finance and venture capital and is from a different country and wants to network. And so by introducing people who are change agents to people who are very senior in the outdoor industry, that flywheel will start going. So this idea of networking, which was really on the last panel, a big conversation, is so critical. Men have done this for decades. They go to lunch, they go golfing, they spend a lot of time together outside the office. And we need to do that as a group. Allison just moved to Seattle and I'm in Seattle. So, and that's how you and I met, Teresa, was I picked up the phone and called and said, come to Seattle. And so we've got to get together as a group, meet each other, and then expand that and say to someone that's in power that might be a white male, hey, I know this amazing woman. Next time you're looking for this, check her out. And this will start to spin and go. So that's my hope and dream.
Thanks. One question from the audience that I really want to get to is, I freaking hate this question because I know men do not get it, but it's the question of how do you do it all? I've never heard that asked of a man, but women, we get it all the time. So what are your thoughts around that question? How do you do it all? Agnes, how do you do it all? How do you find ways to harass me, get out there on the trails, and do all the amazing work you do? How do you do it all?
Oh, thanks, Teresa. That's a good question because, it's something that I remember asking when this thing was just an idea. And like it's been said, I didn't have mentors that looked like me or identified in the same ways. So I had to seek it out. But I think it's just starting somewhere, and like Michelle mentioned, it's about networking, and it's about finding allies, and maybe those folks still are white men, but with all the pushback we get for some of the things that we want to do, like having specific affinity spaces, having all women crews, there are also people that understand that and get it and will help us reach those goals. But one step at a time. It's just breaking things down to little bits and pushing the goals forward.
Allison, how do you do it all? Every time I pop onto IG, damn, there's something else she's doing. Or I read an article and it's like Allison. I'm like, damn, give us some space to do something.
Stop. I mean, I do it with Corey kicking and screaming and biting, and he's beside me. I feel really lucky. My partner actually took him downstairs and he hasn't returned yet. So this is like a glorious moment. But I want to say that like everything that I do is super messy and all over the place, right? Like I don't want to give the impression that I have it figured out, that things go as planned, that, you know, I'm even being the best mom to my son all the time. Like you have to drop the ball. You have to hope other people pick it up. You miss emails, you have Zoom disasters. So I think I do it all by trying to embrace the reality that we're in, like this COVID reality, the fact that I don't have childcare help, the fact that even if I could have childcare, it's so expensive, I probably wouldn't be able to afford it. I have people who are really patient with me and give me grace. And then I guess like the final product is that on social media, sometimes it looks like everything's going well, but like my life is in chaos. But I also really live and thrive in that chaos. So I think a part of it is just embracing the fact that a lot of this is a shit show, right? Like it doesn't look good all the time. It doesn't feel good. It's a shit show, but we are moving, not even always forward. Sometimes we're just moving side to side, but we're moving. So that's how I do it all.
Yeah, I'm just going to chime in as well. I'm a mother of two, and I mean, I think the pandemic has compounded everything, but it is just pure chaos, this life right now, like kids everywhere, you know, like it's so hard to have a moment to yourself. But I just, I lost my train of thought, what I was going to say, but yeah, it's messy. I'm always seeking 10 minutes of time just to like do like one little email. And I think the one thing with kids is you learn to like value your time. And then the other thing is just commit to yourself, commit to something that you want to do and be the person you want to be, and just do whatever it takes to make it happen. And like Allison said, if it's messy, it's going to be messy. Just do your best.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Allison and Sierra. For me, you know, there's some things I know I'm going to do great, and other things that are going to be okay, and other things that are going to be a pure mess. And I've just gone to the point where I'm okay with that. Like, I'm not perfect. Life's not perfect. And we just have to be okay that we can't always handle the million balls in the air, and one might drop every now and again. And that's fine. There will be other opportunities or, you know, other instances where you're going to, you know, make up for that. So yeah, that's how I do it all, by giving myself some forgiveness when I do drop a ball, or when I just don't do something to the 110% that I want to, because sometimes I just can't, because other things get in the way.
I'll jump in. So I think that one of the really great things and ways to do it all is actually to plan ahead, to see where you want to go, and then to actually write it down and take steps in the direction of that. You know, taking those little baby steps will actually eventually get you to your final destination, right? I did the John Muir Trail in 2019. I think Jaylyn, you and I were on it around the same time. And for that trek, I had to plan every single day where I was going to camp, exactly what I needed to eat for food, because I had to get to my destination where I was going to, you know, receive my food for the next section. And so I did complete the trail. But how did I do that? I had to plan ahead. I had to believe that I could do it, and I had to commit, right? And so, you know, committing, when you make a commitment to whatever it is that you desire, it's that extra level of waking up every day and having the energy to work on your dreams and work on your goals. And I myself am a mother. Thankfully, my son is now in college. But, you know, so I've had this feeling of like every day having to be on a schedule. And of course, like everyone says, some days things fall apart, right? Sometimes things don't go as planned. So knowing that that's a part of the journey, and as long as you're taking that step forward, you're eventually going to get to that end goal. So if anything, I want to leave you with plan ahead, commit, and then take those steps forward.
Cool. I wish we had more time to hear, more thoughts around some of these topics, but I want to thank you all for giving me the time that you have. It's been an amazing opportunity to sit in conversation with you all. We have a lot of work ahead, period. If we care about these outdoor spaces that we hike, run, climb, cycle in, we better start including people from underrepresented communities in these conversations, and more importantly, in the work that lies ahead. Let's do it for those who will look back and point the finger and ask, what did we do? So thank you all for being on this panel. I appreciate each and every one of you. And don't forget to tune in at 11 o'clock for the amazing Dr. Carolyn Finney. Take care, everyone.